Welcome to CPF FireWire, a podcast from California professional firefighters where we discuss a wide range of issues affecting firefighters, our unions, our families, and the communities we serve.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's CPF FireWire. Joining me today is Jerry May. Jerry May is a fire captain with the San Jose Fire Department. Jerry is also the president of San Jose Firefighters Local 230. And today we're going to talk about firefighters and Cancer Awareness Month. We're going to talk about AB700, the Firefighter Cancer Prevention Grant Bill, and then just a lot of the efforts that are going around not only California and the CPF, but that are going around the nation as we wake up and realize what a crisis cancer is for our members. So, Jerry, I just want to say welcome. I'm super stoked you joined me today.
Absolutely.
And you know what, tell me, how'd your journey get you to the San Jose Fire Department? We met when you were an executive board member, developed not just a friendship, but a relationship, and now as president of 230. How did you end up here? How'd you get here?
Yeah, it's been a crazy ride, Brian. I started my career as a seasonal it was CDF at the time. I started when I was 19 years old, just figuring out what I was doing in life. Had a really big opportunity down in San Luis Obispo Ranger Unit. Stayed down there for 3 seasons. Phenomenal experience. Met some lifelong friends and some great mentors. Ended up, after the recession more or less, applying for San Jose and got an opportunity as on a 2-year SAFER grant to work for San Jose.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was something that was like completely out of the blue. It was one of those times where in the department it was tough. We just laid off 49 people, and the feeling was like, hey, we don't know how long you're going to be here for. It might be 2 years, but you have an opportunity to work here, and it was just meant to be. And so been there 15 years now. Have a great experience there. Been on our executive board for 5 years now, and been the president for the last year. So it's been a fun ride. And I think one of the big things coming into the position and getting involved on the union board was really a focus on, in my opinion, what was issues we were having with people who were going on disability, and also being diagnosed with cancer, and kind of what the future of that looked like for us.
January was Cancer Awareness Month. You and I have been talking about this since January, and just because of the way unions operate and our job operates, it's just hard to connect, and now we're here to talk about cancer. And I think about the month of January and the different events that went on across this state. One of them was Marin County Professional Firefighters Local 1775. They did cancer screening, and I want to say a cancer awareness event for their members. I know that at some point in time we're going to highlight what they've done, but I kind of wanted to talk to you about some of the things that you've seen. Not just in January, but over the years, the awareness, the efforts that local unions that we've all made together to begin to start really focusing on and taking care of our members when it comes to cancer. And I know you in San Jose and Local 230, you guys have been very active. Talk to me about some of the things that you've done.
Yeah, I would say from when I started in the fire service, I was working with Vietnam veterans who essentially, those guys have been through so much and had fought and sacrificed so much to get what we have today. So kudos to what this organization has done as CPF, IFF, and all the locals, because this isn't something that is just given to us. There's been a lot of sacrifices to have what we have today. And I know we'll touch on that and get into that more, but I think that's where we start. But I really have seen a cultural shift over the last 15 years on how serious this is, on how we can take efforts to essentially mitigate and help prevent a lot of the exposures that we deal with on a daily basis. So for us, I think what it really started with was when I got into the department, we had 2 line of duty deaths from senior captains who literally had retired and were diagnosed with cancer and passed away within 6 months of their diagnosis. So I really saw a shift of, okay, what are we doing here and how can we change this? And so what we started to do and what I've started really seeing is people take this more serious and be more interested on how we can be really prevent this in this space that we work in on a daily basis. You know, San Jose is a very busy fire department. We go to a ton of different fires. And I really think what we're starting to see is people take action and really look at what the science is and look at the steps that we can take as our industry to prevent this from happening.
Over the years, there's a lot of chemical exposure in the San Jose area, and I know that news stories and things have been done on some of the huge Sentinel fires that involve companies, whether it was paint or chemicals. The exposure risk in San Jose is greater than most people really realize. The type of manufacturing, storage, computer, tech stuff. Touch on a little bit of that, some of the exposures that your members see on a daily basis.
Definitely. I actually work at a station in the area, Station 5. It's an industrial area. A lot of R&D has gone into that development of that area. Like you said, the microchip processing manufacturers, a lot of that technology was started obviously in the Silicon Valley. But as you can imagine, with that and them going through that process, like there's been a lot of large scale incidents. So unfortunately, that same station that I work at was nicknamed the cancer station, and it has a history of people who have been there who have been diagnosed with cancer. You have these large-scale incidents where you're dealing with, you know, a lot of unknown products. Everything we talk about, you know, in the beginning of Fire Academy, the methyl bad stuff, that's all that area was. And you start to see a little bit being moved out of the area, but we're still seeing, you know, now the development of like lithium-ion batteries, right? And one of the big things, I actually went on a call the other day. There was a lithium-ion R&D company that had, you know, disposed of some product, and part of that product was xylene. So you mix, you know, a lithium-ion battery fire with xylene, and you know, you're showing up first on scene to a fire in the middle of the night. You have no idea what's there. So you really have to kind of change your mindset when you know you're working in those areas, and what can we do to prevent, you know, unnecessary exposures, and then more importantly, how do we decon after and have these preventative measures where, you know, we're absorbing this into our skin and impacting our members. Because you can imagine over a 30-year career of being exposed to these type of fires, that's what's killing us.
And that's the one, I mean, just listening to what you just said, the mindset changes from force the door, open the commercial door, find the seat of the fire and put it out, to what the hell is burning in here? Why is it this color? Why is the smoke this color? How come the engineer tasted or this and that? And I look back to early in my career to today, and you hit on it. I didn't realize you worked at that station, but I've heard that reference before. One of the things that's really changed us was, I believe, 2 years ago, where the International Research Agency on Cancer, I think it was 2 Augusts ago, or two years ago this August, designated the occupation of firefighting as a Category 1 known carcinogenic profession, meaning the likelihood that you could develop cancer from this job is very, very high. And I think that's something we all knew, but we couldn't really put our finger on it. It was more anecdotal. We knew we worked with bad stuff. We knew we had exposures, but now the science tells us it's there. And for you as a fire captain, a union leader, and a San Jose firefighter, how did that change how you operate, not just in the firehouse, and certainly as a union leader? How does that change your mindset, your attitude, and the importance of protecting our members going forward?
Yeah. I think for us, you know, for me personally, like there's 2 guys that I personally know who are off the job now from cancer. You know, one is, you know, still dealing with the lingering effects and battling cancer still to this day. So it makes it real. And I think those personal connections are the things that we need to go back to the membership and say, hey, this isn't about, oh, the fire department next door, or what's happening in Southern California. This is all of us. This is impacting every single organization. And so I think making that personal is something that we can really bring back to our membership. And it's not when it's going to happen, but if, and the timing of that, right?
Jerry, I've said that exact same thing to my family. As being a firefighter, the question's not if, it's when you get cancer. And just sitting here talking, and it makes me think and process the stuff that I've done over the course of my career. And one of the things, and I don't know how to deal with it, because I know if it happened to me earlier in my career, if I got a cancer diagnosis, and I've watched many of my classmates, my brothers, my sisters, the first thing we all ask, when can I go back to work?
Right.
Because that identity of being a firefighter is very strong. And I've even wondered, how do we protect our members that are on the job today with cancer diagnosis? Some are in remission, some are cancer-free. And I think about that in the future, and this is a hard discussion, and there's not an answer, and I'm not looking to you for one, but it's like, how do we best protect those members?
For sure. I think one of the big things that, because it is so overwhelming, this is such like a big topic, and there's so many things that are always changing, and different opportunities to get involved with, let's say a cancer study or whatever it may be. But you got to go back to like what the simple things that we can do and the simple measures that we can take. And I think it's just coming up with a basic plan. Like, what are you going to do for yourself as a firefighter? How are you going to take care of your family if you're not around or not able to? What are the plans that you can put in place? And I think what we did and we started with is we designated a disability liaison, essentially, where they became kind of like the subject matter expert.
Were they firefighters or assigned to the fire department, a civilian?
The way we've done it in Local 230 and the way we normally operate is we handle everything internally through Local 230. And so we work with our department, workers' comp, manager, essentially, but we come up with a plan together. So when you do get that diagnosis or you do have potential scare, what actions can we take together to help get those members those resources? So it's not being reactive, it's being more proactive, and it's just connecting those dots. There's so many resources that are available to us, Brian, but I don't want a person to hear about it for the first time when they're figuring out their life with their diagnosis. I want them to know that those resources are there before. So it's slowly introducing those to the members. Start connecting those dots, like I said. One of the organizations I think that's important to highlight is that we work really closely with is our brothers and sisters in San Francisco. I think they've done a phenomenal job.
They have.
And
let's touch on it too. Go into it a little bit.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, they have in my opinion, in our industry, probably the best labor management relationship when it comes to cancer and cancer prevention. The screenings that they provide for their members, the screenings they provide for the retirees, it's all encompassing. And so having that mindset when you're building that plan, I think is really important. And having that input and the buy-in from management is something that you have to get. And I think that's really critical if you want to be successful.
Were you guys able to implement some of Local 798's cancer prevention activities? And I don't want to say just stuff, but just some of the benefits they've given to their members. I know you've been pretty close over the years. And then does that help with the members of Local 230 and San Jose Fire Department with this is a really credible group that we're working with, and do they feel secure in it?
Absolutely. I think what I've really embraced is our District 4 leadership. I think we have an incredible group of guys that I just call like junkyard dogs. Like, these guys will fight for their members to their last breath. And you look at San Francisco, Hayward, Oakland, Alameda County, Alameda City. I mean, we could go up and down Santa Clara County. Everyone is very involved and engaged in this space. And so when one group is able to get something like, for instance, full body MRI scans, you have a text message thread or a group of people are going out to dinner being like, how do we get this for our membership? And so we create those roadmaps for each other and we share. And I think that's my big message today is you can't figure this out alone. You can't do this on your own. You have to use those resources around you. So, my advice, tap into those people, tap into that leadership that's there, because they paved the way for what we have today.
I'm going to not quite yet go over to advocacy and CPF and get your thoughts on where we are, where we've been. But you mentioned something earlier that it really hit home with me, because I have a family member dealing with esophageal cancer. And you mentioned that Local 230 and San Jose firefighters did some esophageal cancer testing. What made you do that? When did you do it? And what did you learn?
So this is my big thing as a union leader that I tell all new union leaders, I tell anyone who's interested in getting involved on your local board or being on the executive board at some point, you have to make those trips to the conventions. You have to go to the legislative conventions. You have to participate in the IFF training, because those are the opportunities where you meet, different leaders who are saying like, hey, I want to connect you with, an opportunity to do esophageal cancer screening. And that's literally how it came about. You start talking to different people when it comes to cancer, and you're like, hey, there's a lot of opportunities out there, whether it be the esophageal cancer, whether it be free cancer screening for skin cancer, whether it be discounts on full body MRIs. All these things are opportunities that are out there. But it's communicating with the rest of leadership and saying, how did you get that opportunity? And so for the esophageal cancer, it actually happened to be at a convention in Carlsbad. I was sitting down with the Anaheim firefighters, and we actually were sitting in a room and we were talking, and they said, hey, there's a really cool opportunity we just went through. The test itself is not fun. The esophageal test.
I'll bet.
It's not a fun test at all. And it was actually entertaining to see people come out after they did the test, because they looked miserable. But the reality is that from that test that we were allowed to give our membership through Local 230 and our retirees, we had 10 positives that came out of the testing, and it gave those members an opportunity to go follow up on further testing. And so if you don't create those opportunities for your members, like we said, we're sitting back and now we're reactive. And so these people had a chance to follow up and see if, hey, this is something that I need to seek treatment for before something like esophageal, which is terminal cancer, right?
It's interesting because I'm seeing it firsthand. It is, they all are, but esophageal, certainly early detection can be the difference between life and death.
Absolutely.
And it could be weeks, it could be days. Just the fact of how you learned about that at our convention.
Right. One of the big things for me is like esophageal cancer and seeing people go through that. Like, I have a personal story, and that started with 1775 with Rick Addicts. I actually attended his funeral, and I was there to support my brother, John Bagala, one of the great labor leaders, I think, not just in the state, but in the nation. And it was personal, man. It's hard for me to talk about, but I remember being at this funeral. It's actually across from San Francisco, looking out at the Golden Gate Bridge in front of the Bay Area Discovery Museum. That's a place I take my kids. Like, we take them there, just amazing place. And it was this incredible funeral there outside with all of Marin County there, all their brothers and sisters. San Francisco brought their fireboat out. And I remember sitting there and watching his son and his daughter and his wife and his community speak about him, and that impact that him not being there that had on that community. And sometimes it's those experiences that bring you back as a labor leader and realize that this is something that we have to address. This is something that we have to do. And so with Rick, I always remember just even like the song that they played, in the back of my mind, it was this Michael Kiwanuka song, and I was sitting there, and anytime I hear that, I think of Rick. But those are the things and the experiences all of us need to remember, that it's not just about, what's going to happen or what's best for my membership, but this is something we have to fight it for all of our brothers and sisters, and this is industry-wide changes that we need to make. So what 1775 has been doing since then, they're one of the leaders in this space, creating opportunities for, like I said, future cancer screenings. They're looking at stuff that VO2 max, everything that can be preventative. And so I think that's that shift that we're talking about, is what can we do as as an industry. And I think it's really a mind shift of how do we start with preventative measures first and then go from there.
I appreciate what you just said and what you related, and what I really appreciated about it was the network that you created between Anaheim firefighters, Marin County firefighters, and what happened is what happened, and especially the loss of a friend, but what came out of it, and the testing opportunity, and the realization, and you said it, Jerry, no local can do this on their own. None of us. We have to share information. We have to stick together. This would probably be one of those good times, or it would be a good time to go over to the advocacy spot and to kind of get your take on, has the advocacy, one of the things that Mike and I said at this last convention, we're going to declare war on cancer. We moved free of COVID. We are stronger in the behavioral health arena than we had been when we started. Our work in any of these is never going to be done, but it was in our face that we were woefully behind on cancer. And so that caused me to say, CPF's going to declare war on cancer. We've got some things going. We've got our advocacy going. I'd like you to talk about that a little bit, what you've seen. And I'll just say what a direction you would want the CPF to go in. One that we did go in, AB700, which establishes a California Firefighter Cancer Prevention and Research Program. We got it funded at $7 million. That's a start. You were received, San Jose firefighters received a grant. So I want to hit all of that, including our advocacy and where we should be going next.
Right. I think I always want to go back to like where we first started, right? Because what we love about this job and what's so important about this job and union work specifically in the labor movement is what has got us to the place we are today. But like we can start with AB 3011 back in 1982. That was the first firefighter cancer prevention law in California. And people don't realize this or recognize this, especially our younger members, and I don't blame them, but we lead the nation in cancer prevention laws, right? We lead the nation, and we lead from the front when it comes to providing the resources for our members, and the legislation that's been passed has been monumental. What everyone else doesn't understand is you go to South Dakota, you go to Kentucky, you look at some of the states in the South, they are fighting for presumptive laws every single day.
You look at our federal brothers and sisters right here in California,
right? And it's, to me, we have had the previous leadership pave the way for where we are today. So I want to acknowledge them and thank them and all the work that everyone has done to get us here. Going back to 2010 with AB 2253, that was the Dallas Jones Cancer Presumption Act, right? That's an opportunity that we've given all of our members that if they are diagnosed with cancer, after 10 years when they retire, they're given the chance for them to be taken care of and for their families to be taken care of. So, I mean, these are really big things that are happening here and started here in California. And so I want to make sure that people are aware of that. We're not just given these things. There's no one who just signs up and says, you know what, let's give all this stuff to the firefighters. No, we've had to fight for all of this. And so we need to recognize those wins, and we need to make sure that our membership knows where we started and where we've arrived today.
What I like about that, Jerry, and I'm going to turn you loose on this again in a second, is those are the protections. They're monumental. Many of them were first in the nation, and we're probably never going to be out of legislation that protects our members further, but it does seem like we're starting to plant our flag in the awareness, prevention, and research arena. And AB700, the Firefighter Cancer Prevention and Research Program, is one of those. And not only did we pass it collectively, and every firefighter local that's part of CPF had something to do with that, we were able to get $7 million in funding, and I believe 6 fire departments were initially awarded grants. I know San Jose Firefighters Local 230 was one of those grants, and you were instrumental in that. And so I kind of want to hear your story, who you worked with, how it came to be, and what drew you to move towards a grant in that arena.
For sure. So just for context, so I think everyone understands, AB700 is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us. I mean, the fact that we have our legislators knowing that this is something that they care about for us, we have this great opportunity to work with world-renowned scientists through the UC system to be able to engage not just in cancer research for our industry, but with us. And so that is the coolest thing about AB700. We're actually leading these research projects. These are things that we've collaborated with these scientists, and we're coming up with plans together like, hey, with your specialty, how can we evaluate how to be preventative, and how can we potentially eliminate some of these cancer risks that we're dealing with?
You just brought up two things, I'm going to interrupt you, that are critically important. You said we, that means firefighters and firefighter unions were part of writing these grants and participating in them. But the other one, using the world-class UC California university system in cancer research. There are no better researchers in the nation than right here in California, and being able to have that partnership is everything. And I didn't want that to get lost. You get it, right. But I didn't want that to get lost with everybody else, with everything else. California firefighters, California universities researching for California firefighters. Super important. We're a leading role. Local 230 received one of those grants. Let's talk about that, and who you partnered with and what it means.
Absolutely. So when we started talking about what type of research we wanted to do, one of the biggest things, and firefighters always have a million ideas, right? We know that. That's something that you go to any kitchen table, you'll hear everything, right? But I think what was really important here is to go to some of our industry subject matter experts. And for us, it started with Dr. Derek Irwin. For those of you who don't know, we are so lucky to have him. He is a LA County firefighter, amazing individual, UC professor as well at UCLA. I mean, I can't even tell you how lucky we are to have him. He's incredible. But long story short, with Derek, I started talking to him about some different opportunities, specifically in the Bay Area. What were some of the research teams that were up here? And one of the ones that we really started to hone in on was a team that was at UC Berkeley Lawrence Livermore Labs. And this team specifically was a world-renowned team for secondhand smoke exposure. So they've worked on different research projects that have been published throughout the world, specifically in the tobacco and cannabis industry, and how that secondhand smoke impacts, not just people who are walking in the room, but might be living in those spaces, might be
family members,
exactly,
anybody,
everyone, right? So it was a chance to go to them and say, hey, we have an idea of wanting to test some of the areas that we work in, some of the gear that we use, our living spaces. What would that look like? How would we go about that? And so what we decided on and came to like a kind of a conclusion is, how do we best protect ourselves? And what that came down to is this study, we call it a secondhand smoke exposure study, but it's a hands-on study that looks at the real stuff that we deal with every single day, right? Dirty turnouts, the inside of our rigs after we go to any of these type of fires. I don't care what type of fire it is, but when you get back in your rig after being at a structure fire, vehicle fire, homeless encampment fire, I don't care what it is. Like we're still exposing ourselves, right, when we're in that space, right? And then also looking at the firehouse itself. And so what we're doing is we're looking at this residue from all the different types of fires. Like I said, structure, car, industrial, wildland, urban interface, and wildland, you name it, that's what we're looking at. And had an opportunity to meet Dr. Aris Polios. He's one of the teams that started these world-renowned secondhand smoke studies. And I'm telling you, these people are some of the best in the world. And what I've realized in this space, especially with these different UCs is they all talk to each other and they all connect the dots. When I started talking to him about this, he was reaching out to teams that were in Sweden and Finland doing some additional studies that we could tie into this. So it isn't just about making the one connection for us, right, with these teams. They're bringing scientists from all around the world together to help connect the dots for us, to help make this the best research that we can while we have the opportunity and the funding to do it. So we're looking at and we'll be testing what kind of chemicals we're bringing back from these fires, breaking it down in the lab and figuring out how dangerous it really is, especially when it comes to cancer. And they're just not stopping there. They're also testing out different cleaning methods and ways to reduce exposure so we get real solutions, not just a list of problems.
That was the second one, was how far are they going, and the list of solutions and decon solutions is big. We're going to start seeing more and more of that. You mentioned the lithium ion batteries. Heavy metals are very prevalent there. Our normal decontamination processes don't eliminate these metals, and there's a couple other ways to do it. One is liquid CO2, and those are all being looked at. So these, and this is what I appreciated, and you expanded on the team that's behind this, and you mentioned Dr. Irwin, Derek Irwin. Derek is a PhD, he's a doctor, he's a research scientist, and he specializes in cancer and firefighter exposure, and you're 100% right. We could not be more fortunate than having Derek, because Derek oversees and guides a lot of us in this. He guides the international, and so he keeps us on the right track. When we look at cancer research and what we have going, AB700 right now in the next legislative cycle, and I'm going to be calling on every local across the state. You know, we're going to have a $25 million ask to refund the cancer firefighter cancer prevention and research program of AB700. So we're not done. As an active firefighter, what do you see in research? What do you see in decontamination, prevention, all of these things? Where do you think our next big challenge is coming from?
I think what I'd really like to see and the focus really be is that right now when we go and we discuss any sort of additional cancer screening or additional, for instance, Sac Metro has an amazing program where after they are at a fire, they have a formal decon process where they actually switch out their gear on scene. Okay, so they're never bringing back any contaminated products back into their rig, back into their living quarters. It's addressed there. And they also have enough time when they get back to do a proper decon, to shower. It's to me like what the industry standard should be. But me as a labor leader, I have to go fight to get that. And I have to go negotiate to get additional cancer screenings. And so what I want to see, the direction that we move is that this becomes an industry standard. You know, when you go in and you get your 1582 physical done that we had a fight to get, it's not something that the city manager woke up overnight and said, oh, we're going to give them the 1582 physicals. No, we're still fighting for that. And so what I'd like to see in the industry is that it is something that when you get onto the job, you have your physical with all of the panels that are done. You have a full body ultrasound that is done. You go through your VO2 max testing. And then in the future, when you hit a certain amount of years, you start to get full body MRI scans. So we're starting to treat our firefighters like professional athletes because we're working in this space every single day. And I don't care how big or small of a department you're in, you're being exposed to these things on a chronic basis. And so over a 30-year career, that's going to catch up to you. And so having these things set so that we don't have to go to the table and bargain for these things is one of my top priorities. I'm going to fight for that every single moment I get. You know, I'm a fighter, Brian, something that I care about so much, but that's something that I really would love to see us move in that direction where this is something that everyone gets.
And I'm right there. One of the things that I found interesting as I talk and listen and build that network, one of the things that I thought was super interesting is that a firefighter in San Jose at Station 5 has a different exposure than a firefighter in, say, the city of Elk Grove, which is mercantile and residential. And I think as we begin to really look at what's killing our members, we're going to start looking at geography. We're going to start looking at our exact exposures, because one of the things that I hope that we can drill down into, we can find out what cancers are prevalent where, based on the exposures that we get. The one thing that really concerns me, Jerry, right now for all California firefighters is the lithium-ion battery, whether it's in vehicles, it's in a storage type facility, it's in a transit facility, it's in a reconditioning facility. I would say that one, and I'm deviating off a little bit about what we're talking about. We don't know the long-term health repercussions there, but when you're talking about heavy metal poisoning and some of the things we're exposed to, you can bet your rear end that it's going to be, cancer is going to play into it at some point in time. And for us, it's identifying these exposures before they happen. We're behind the 8 ball on lithium-ion batteries. I think it's also kind of a response crisis piece. We're gaining effort, but as we see technology growing and becoming more and more part of our daily lives, the things that we were exposed to 40, 50 years ago in San Jose with the semiconductor, the processors, all that stuff, it's going to become more prevalent, and we have got to get smarter in how we deal with it and recognize it early. We're in the process of that, and I'm excited to be a part of it. I look back in my career and the things that we did that we were not smart. I wasn't smart.
Right.
I didn't take care of myself until very late in my career the way I should have. But we're learning so much more from that now, and I'm excited about that. We didn't even touch on PFAS.
Right.
It's a whole other discussion.
Yeah.
Dr. Irwin has been knee deep in that research. There will be some end result of a study done, and we're going to find that there still aren't clean turnouts out there without either brominated flame retardants to replace the PFAS or PFAS itself. You could expect that to come out in the next several months, certainly before summer begins. We could probably go on and on some of the things that we've been talking about, but I know we get short of time. I wanted to ask you if there's something you want to leave the membership with, or something to continue to focus on, some advice. Time is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just following that part of the conversation, right, and talking about all the different things that you're exposed to and the development of technology, and we're not in control of what we are exposed to, right? That alarm goes off, we show up, we do our best that we can, and then we have to deal with the results after. But what I really want to hammer home on, and this is something that, going back to giving credit where credit is due, if you're not enrolled and you're not logging your personal exposure reporting, you are doing yourself a disservice, you're doing your brothers and sisters a disservice, and you're doing your family a disservice. And I'm telling you what, log every call, because what we've done in this state with CPF is make this the industry standard, so that when you are going through a cancer diagnosis, when you're hooked up to a machine, going through any sort of treatment, or you're in that bed and you're sitting there, you're not trying to go back and figure out what you were potentially exposed to. So do yourself, not just for you, do it for your family, but log your exposures, because that's what's gonna come back and protect you. That's what's gonna get you up at night and be like, you know what, I gotta go log that, because that might have been a terrible call and that might come back and haunt me in 6 months. So do yourself that's the best thing that you can do, that I would really say. Let's start there, right? But when all of this kind of like comes down and you come up with a plan and you create the buy-in in your organization, and you have, people that are coming up through the ranks and coming up in leadership, like, this always has to continue to be a priority. And so sometimes as a leader, you need to take a step back and say, hey, maybe there's something else that we're missing, because there's so many new things that are coming to us, right, Brian? We see all the companies that say, hey, this is the best new test, right?
Yes,
this
we
is
do.
going to cure everything. You could just, hey, sign the golden dot right here and send us $1 million and you guys will be taken care of. Sometimes we got to take a step back and say, hey, maybe this isn't the best thing. And so give yourself the grace to be able to pivot. If that is not something, a solution that's working, and the science is coming out and saying, you know what, that test might not be the best test for all of us. This isn't the golden egg that we're all hoping for. So we have to continue to build on the technology that's there, but also lean on to your brothers and sisters who are doing it everywhere else around you. You don't need to recreate the wheel. You really don't when it comes to this. There's proven organizations that I look at, San Francisco, Alameda County, Marin County. Those are my mentors. I see what they're doing in that space and say, not only do I want to do that, but how can we make it better? And so that's the conversation that we need to all be having together, right? And I think that's how we're going to continue to lead from the front, because that's what this organization does.
You know what, Jerry, you just nailed, I was going to give you one little closer, you just nailed it. A vision and envisioning where we go with other organizations to lead the charge in protecting firefighters. I know you just covered a lot of ground, but PER, your statement was incredibly powerful. And then the awareness that there's no golden pill that's going to save you. There's no golden test. And we all know that, and we need to be aware of that. And you kind of helped me with my vision as we lead CPF forward. Presence in the prevention field, a huge presence in the wellness field, and we have to look at everything: sleep patterns, diet, exposures, all of it, and then treatments and tests that are being offered. We owe it to our members to be cutting edge, to know what's there. I'm summing up what you just said, and I appreciate the way you said it, and it's the vision, it's it's envisioning where we need to go, and I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I just want to say, Jerry, thank you. Number one, for your friendship and being a professional colleague, and one of the few people you're really, you keep me straight when I need to be straightened out, and I always appreciate that. But you have a vision of protecting not just San Jose Local 230 members, but all firefighters. And with that, I'm going to close us out. I'm Brian Rice. I'm the president of the California Professional Firefighters. I've been here today with Captain and President of the San Jose Firefighters, Jerry May. And with that, I want to thank everybody for listening to the California FireWire. And we'll talk to everybody later. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.